So AEW All In is in the books. We've got a brand new AEW World Champion. We've got ourselves a brand new AEW Women's World Champion. If you want the full podcast length breakdown of AEW All In from Wembley, you can check that out over at the Going In Raw channel. But this is WrestleJuice. It's all about the friendos out there. And yeah, this is where I drop the hot takes. But let's be honest, man, there was a comment from the last video, the last hot takes thing I did, I think. And they basically said, I forget who it is and I apologize, but they were basically like, hey, you should rate how hot these takes are because a lot of them aren't really hot takes. Some of them are cold takes. So I tell you what I did. This time I actually went through all of them. And, well, I'm not going to read all of them. There's like 116 of these things. But I went through and I chose a bunch of hot takes, a bunch of cold takes, which are just basically thoughts and observations, shit that we can all probably agree on. And then a couple of ridiculous items here and there, just things that sort of stuck out as interesting to me. First up, we'll go with this hot take from 21 Pandas. I never laughed so hard at a wrestling show more than when I saw Bryan Danielson's kids cry. It was amazing. They're seeing their dad get his ass whooped. He kept on looking at them, saying, I love you, and then he eats a kick and he stares at them. That is the core memory. How could you cry at that? How could you laugh at that? I was weeping for these poor kids they're too young to know what the fuck is going on. Even if they were backstage and like, they were like, okay, kids, you know, this is like ache-fay, right? This is not real. It's a real thing that I'm doing, but it's for a story. It's fake. Even if they have Swerve back there, you know, giving them like toys and playing with them like hide and seek and stuff or whatever, tag or whatever adults play with kids. Soccer, that's what I did with my kid earlier. Even if like Uncle Swerve is like their best friend, then to see him go out there and beat the living shit. That moment when Bryan Danielson gave him the psycho knee and he just got up and literally brushed it off, that was terrifying. That was like horror movie villain stuff. Swerve looked like $1 million in his loss, which was great. I think it's been a pretty good title run, but I think it's wild that 21 Pandas laughed hard when she saw Bryan Danielson's kids cry. Gosh darn it. Anyways, a branded gear has a hot take here. It says, maybe it's just my ignorance talking, but Danielson didn't need to win the title. Love the guy a lot, and I think he's one of the best ever, but at this point in his career, he didn't need it. All right. Fair enough. I kind of feel like the company needed it more than anything. You're heading into like, look, there's one of these hot takes on here. Maybe I put it in here. Maybe I didn't. I hope I did. Oh yeah. It's from Tangy Scout 71 later on. Says this felt like the first true version of a WrestleMania type show for AEW. Awesome entrances, matches, and more. I think they're getting there. I think they need to work on that stage. Like it needs to, you know, like elaborate the WrestleMania stages. I think that AEW needs to populate the stage with more stuff. But I agree. I feel like Danielson winning here against Swerve felt like a big moment. It felt like a big sort of turning point. I think Swerve was like that first champion that really, after Samoa Joe and the MJF stuff, I think Swerve sort of is like that first guy that's like, okay, now we're going to get guys like him. We're going to get the Darbys. We're going to get the Ospreys. We're going to get the Okadas in on that world title main event scene. And Danielson, I think, is sort of like the gateway to that. I think once Danielson loses that title, it's probably going to be to somebody who's younger. And at that point, it's probably going to be a long line of younger, sort of more relevant wrestlers as opposed to relying on name value. I think that Danielson winning that title, number one, it convinces people to tune out on Wednesday. Hey, there's a new champion. Let's see what stories are going to tell now. Let's see what direction they're going to go in now. Who's his first opponent going to be? Who's his opponent at All Out going to be? Because I don't think that's been decided yet. I know Grand Slam is going to be Darby. In any event, I think it's good for the company. I don't think Danielson needs it. And I think that evidently, according to Fightful and some other sources, he didn't want it. But Tony Khan was able to convince him because he wants Danielson's name in the lineage of the title. But moreover, you got to figure Tony Khan knows that it is, to steal a phrase from Vince McMahon, best for business. Because I really think it is for AEW. And I know Danielson's lost a lot, but if he goes on I'm going to lose this title and retire, like, you know, I'm going to defend this thing until I lose it and then I'm officially retired. I think there's kind of an intriguing story. You can tell her they did that with Mickie James a couple years ago, and I thought it was pretty effective there in TNA. So I think it's good for the company. I don't think Danielson needs it. Of course, he doesn't need it, but I do think it's good for the company. Johnny P1 has a similar idea, says Bryan Danielson should say that he'll retire when he loses the championship and then go undefeated for a year and a half. That is a very, very long time. A year and a half is forever. I do not think Danielson should wait a year and a half before retiring. It's AEW. They like having their world champion defended on most pay-per-views, which at this point are kind of monthly. What do they have, 9 per year now or so? And they've got those big theme Dynamite episodes. So I don't see that happening. I don't know that I'd want it to go a year and a half. That's a really long time. And there's too much really good talent that's on, if not the younger side, definitely newer to AEW side of things. I mentioned them already. The Ospreys, even the Jay Whites that's out there still. You've got people out there that are going to need to pick up that world title. You don't want it to get stale. And booking baby faces is not easy. WarDog691 says Swerve Strickland's title reign in AEW has been the best the company has ever had because of all the former champions he has beaten. I think it could have gone on a little bit longer. I like the title change happening at All In because it is becoming their WrestleMania. That being, and he might get it right back at Wrestle Dream. I don't know. That being said, I feel like Swerve's title run, in my opinion, is probably the second most interesting one for me because Swerve, I think, is the guy that sort of got the title as he was peaking. And I think that's really important. I think he got the title within a certain time frame of doing really, really, really interesting stuff. And I don't know that anybody else can really say that. Hangman Adam Page got it when he peaked, but then CM Punk showed up and Tony Khan completely was just like, no, it's going to be Hangman Adam Page. In terms of the best title runs, I mean, Mox had a really long one. His first one was really long. And, it was during pandemic. To me, Kenny Omega is still number one. Because of the belt collector stuff, Kenny Omega as a bad guy is like my favorite thing in the world. That's my number one. Plus the matches were out of sight. They're out of this world. I think Swerve might be number 2 for me. I do. I think that he might be number 2. Colton Gibson says MJF will be the real American champion. From what I understand, Taz tweeted out something about retiring the FTW title as like a defended title in AEW. I don't know if Hook really accomplishes much by holding on to that title because I guess even in the storyline, it's an heirloom. It's Taz's possession. And then some idiot like Jericho gets his hands on it and ruins it. And, that's just, it's not a great situation. So they might get rid of the FTW title. If they do, that's one title out. You can replace it with MJF keeping that United States Championship, the American Championship. I'll be honest with you guys. At first, I thought that thing was ugly as shit. It's the MAGA title, right? I kind of like the way the damn thing looks. I think it looks kind of cool, to be honest with you. So I'd be okay with MJF saying, hey, he beat me for the international title. I'm still the American champion. And then they can just part ways. Ospreay doesn't really have to care. He can go, oh, mate, And then MJF can do his thing as the American champion. All right, let's talk about this. Bomb the City says, Britt shouldn't have wrestled if people around her knew she still had ring rust from being a year away from the wrestling ring. The suspension almost also made the angle feel lackluster. They probably should have done the suspension after All In, to be honest with you. And look, man, I don't want to pile on because I know the internet's already doing this. But clearly something was off there. I don't know if it's a matter of Britt didn't want to lose after coming back for being away for so long, or if she's not happy with her spot. I don't know what the deal is. We all have our shit going on. We all have our issues. Something about that match just felt a little bit on the offside. I feel like they nailed the landing, but a lot of it, the rest of the match left a lot to be desired in terms of them being on the same page and telling a good story. The promos leading up to it, a lot of the stuff with Britt just seemed like, I don't know, off a little bit. The body language was kind of a big tell, in my opinion. But I don't know. Maybe, like I said, we all got our own stuff going on. Who knows? Callum Shannon says the casket match was a huge letdown and made the number one contender look pathetic. So yeah, Darby is number one contender. He's heading into Grand Slam with a title shot. I liked the casket match. I'll be honest with you. I liked it. I don't know what you guys thought about it necessarily. I mean, this wasn't match of the year candidate or anything, but they're trying to make something out of Jack Perry. I personally have really appreciated the work that Jack Perry has put in since the CM Punk stuff, using the real glass. I thought it was a good touch. I like that he's leaning into it because as a character, it's fucking annoying. And it's like, dude, get over it. Well, he doesn't want to get over it. He's leaning into it. I like that stuff. I think it works for him. I thought as Jungle Boy, I was like, who is this guy even? What is his deal? He's not actually from the jungles. We know that. We know that his dad was Luke Perry, so we know that he was kind of a trust fund kid. I'm imagining, anyways, a famous Hollywood actor. In any event, yeah, I don't know. I think that Jack Perry's doing good work right now, and I appreciate that Darby. Look, Darby's going to get his title shot. He might damn well win the title at some point soon, according to Dave Meltzer, anyways. And so Jack Perry completely in it. Here's the thing about Darby Allin. Darby Allin's very existence, his whole style of wrestling is high risk, high reward, right? So it's like you put yourself at risk. You make one mistake doing what he does, wrestling the way he does, and in a casket match and a coffin match, hey, guess what? That might just compound and make things really, really bad for him. And that's what happened here. So I'm okay with it. He's a high risk, high reward wrestler. Leg Hair says the ending to the Gauntlet match took the wind out of the sails of the show so badly that I was flat out disinterested in the first half of the MJF versus Ospreay match. Christian winning was definitely a choice. Definitely a choice. I was fine. Like by the time MJF Ospreay happened, I was fine because the Gauntlet match was a lot of fun. And a lot of you people here in the cold takes agree with that. But Christian winning, I don't know. It's like a year too late. I'm not into that. What is she doing over there? Do you want to go outside? Okay. Caleb Wilson in our last hot take says, I almost feel like Ricochet should have debuted confronting Will Ospreay. I understand they're saving that, but I think it would have given more social media buzz. If not that, maybe returning as Prince Puma. I'm not huge on the Prince Puma thing. He's got the name Ricochet. It's what they knew him. You know, it's what he built his brand on in WWE on that big platform of his. I kind of agree with this though. I really liked the Gauntlet match, and there were so many big names in it. I thought it was a good place for him to debut. But also, the other side of that is he doesn't win it. He wasn't going to win it. It was, obviously, they may have had it Christian. It seemed like Hangman Adam Page or Okada had a good chance at winning it too because they have like active stories going on. But Ricochet, it's like Ricochet debuting at the Royal Rumble. If he's not going to win it, is it kind of a waste of a debut? Him facing off with Will Ospreay seems like it could have been pretty cool. Now that might be what we get next. Or he works his way eventually to get to Will Ospreay, which is kind of how I think it should be. Maybe over the next couple months you show little snippets of them. Maybe they cross paths in the hallway backstage. That would be kind of cool. Maybe Ricochet comes to Ospreay's aid if Ospreay still has to deal with the Don Callis family. That could be kind of cool. And then they end up having a match because that's what we all want to see. You got to make the people wait for it and build to it. So, yeah, confronting Ospreay, I think that could have been one way to go, and maybe it would have been a really cool moment. But I'm okay with the way he debuted. He seemed really happy to be there at a place that'll probably appreciate what the guy brings to the table. All right, time for some cold takes. These are takes that I think we can all agree on. First up, Tony, the Pokemon guy, says Jamie returning should have been on the main card, should have been against a bigger opponent. 1,000%. Jamie Hayter came back. It's been like a year and 3 months since she's been out. Everybody has been clamoring to see her. And like, I turn on, look, man, doing what we do at the age that I'm doing it. Mid-40s, about to turn, oh my God, I'm about to turn 46 years old. Watching this thing, being entertaining for 4 hours, and then talking about it for another hour and a half on the podcast. I ain't complaining about it. I love my job. I only have so much energy, so I'm not going to sit there and watch the 0 hour for 2 hours, because I think it was a 2-hour pre-show. I'm not going to watch that. So as I'm setting everything up, I turn it on. I'm going to put it in the Discord so the Lars can watch it. And I see Jamie Hayter, and I'm like, Was this like a replay from last year or something? What? Wait, no, but she wasn't at last. What the fuck is going on right now? No, it was live. She has red hair now. What the fuck is going on right now? Why did they debut her in the pre-show? That was nuts. That was absolutely nuts. I agree with that one. Bucket Dipper says, I personally don't have an issue with Christian Cage winning the gauntlet. Well, that's a hot take. He says, while the Luchasaurus aspect of it wasn't wholly unique, Christian always delivers in these big feuds. He'll do so again against Danielson. What's the status of Danielson's dad? Here we go. Poetry and Tofu didn't laugh at Danielson's kids crying. He cried over Bryan screaming, I love you. He says, Bryan screaming, I love you to his family while refusing to look away from them is the most beautiful moment in AEW's short history. I cried as he took every kick. Not a hot take, I'm sure. Just have to gush over that for a second. Hey, shout out to Poetry and Tofu for opening up about their emotions in wrestling. I think that's awesome. If there's a moment that touched you so much in wrestling and you're sharing that, I think that's an awesome thing. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Also, the flip side of that, as 21 Panda said earlier, those kids staring at their dad, bloody, getting kicked while he's staring into their souls, saying, I love you. Wow, you might need some therapy, kids. I'm just saying. Dr. 64A9 says, there aren't any hot takes. Standard AEW show, engaged crowd, good matches. Surprise signing everyone knew about. Bad cam work that reminds you how much better WWE's presentation is. This show isn't going to change anyone's mind on AEW. I don't know, man. If it gets lots of buzz, maybe people will tune into it. Will it change any staunch defenders of WWE, any staunch haters of AEW? Probably not. I don't know how many undecideds there are, but there might be some casual people who might have been into AEW. What is this on my hat? It's a piece of fuzz. Let's get off my hat. Sorry about that. Atticus8659 says the Casino Gauntlet is one of the best things AEW has done in a long time. Ending aside, it was an awesome match. Also, Mr. Van Cleef says AEW should build a pay-per-view around the Casino Gauntlet match every year, a la the Royal Rumble. Tony's actually really good at booking these matches. There is something that Tony Khan is really good at, booking these gauntlet matches. I agree, absolutely. He likes these weird, giant, weird matches or Rumble matches, whatever he does. I agree. I agree with this. The Casino Gauntlet was so much fun. It was loaded up with some awesome surprises, some really cool surprises. Nigel McGuinness coming out to an Oasis song, which I didn't really understand because I had it in my ear, but it was really low, so I could talk to Larson and talk to the friendos. But that was awesome. Man, yeah, I agree. Build the whole pay-per-view. Fuck it. Have your own Royal Rumble type thing to lead to All In. I think that's a swell idea. Alex Good says Nigel coming out to Oasis was the coolest part of an overall great show. I'm so happy that you pointed this out, Nigel. I'm sorry, Alex. Nigel's the wrestler. Alex, I appreciate you pointing that out because I would not have known that if I didn't see that. Then I went back and because he expands in the replies, and it's a song called "Fucking in the Bushes," and I was like, wait a second. This is from Snatch. I remember this song. And then I remember Nigel McGuinness's old promos from back in the day, and it kind of sounds like a Guy Ritchie character. I think his character back then was kind of inspired by that stuff. So that's a really cool put it together moment for me, thanks to you, Alex. All right, we had a couple more takes here that are just random as hell. Emmanuel, I really like this. This one got me. He says, wasn't going to order the event at first, but decided to watch the 0 Hour show with the family. When the ladder match competitors were making their entrances, my mom tells me, do you want to go halvesers on the pay-per-view? Tell your mom she is the best. That's like something my mom or my dad would have done. That actually kind of got me when I read that one. Thank you for sharing that. I love that so much. Do you want to go halfers on the pay-per-view? Thanks, Mom. Man. Mrs. Zavala, good on you. Braden Loader says the only thing All In was missing from being a perfect show was Shane McMahon gauntlet win and main event cash in for the best in the world. Oh, that'd been good. No, man, I'm telling you, recreating the WrestleMania 17 ending with Bryan in the Stone Cold role and Shane in the Vince role, that's what they should have done. That would have been awesome. And then Biz Kaz Fry says, not a hot take, but my wife says Steve looks like John Cena if he worked outside. If he worked outside every day. Man, let me tell you guys something here real quick. I know. Look, I'm about to be 46 years old. So I got all these laugh wrinkles right here. It's fine. I own it. I'm cool with it. There's a filter on this thing that when I record, I can opt for a couple different filters. There's a filter in here that I really, really like. I'll see if I can load it up right now. And I love this filter because it makes everything look really warm and yet kind of the blacks look kind of bluish and stuff. But you can see every bit of sun damage. It brings out all the sun damage on my skin. And you can't see that in real life. Like, I look in the mirror, I can't see it. Lacey's like, oh my God, dude, you don't look like that. I'm outside all of 4 hours a week. 2 hours of basketball on Monday against Larson and 2 hours of basketball on Fridays against Larson. And that's the long and short of it. And here's the crazy thing is that when we play, I wear like a headband. And up here, like my forehead is completely devoid of that sun damage because of that. So it's like white, pale white up here and then sun damage right here. I literally asked Lacey the other day, because I don't work outside. I asked Lacey the other day, I was like, hey, can you research like how to fix sun damage on the face? I'm sure I'll go back to being pale this wintertime because it's coming up kind of soon. But yeah, anyways, I'm going to cosplay as John Cena at SAC Anime on next Sunday. So if you're in the Sacramento area, go to SAC Anime and you see John Cena walking around. If you see sun damaged John Cena walking around, say hello. We'll see you guys around.